Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sandy Frank's political podcast for a people's movement against the corporate fascist state. I'm your host, Sandy Frank. Today, we are going to be talking about a lot of things. My last video was really, a lot of the videos I've made are huge indictments of the Democratic establishment, the entire establishment for that matter, and the corporate media, the corporate controlled media extension of the corporate fascist state. Especially in my last video, I went after the Democrats and their mouthpieces in the corporate media quite extensively, and I brought up the need for, and I've brought this up in several other videos, is the need for our own mass media organization to counter the corporate media, but of course we need much more than this. We have an election system that's controlled by the Department of Homeland Security. We have constant warfare and government ruled by corporations and so many other problems. But this episode is going to be primarily about our plans for achieving this. I've already made a video explaining a lot, going into a lot more deeper into revolution, into having a political revolution, creating a people's movement to, first of all, creating a people's manifesto to have, and a concrete people's organization to be able to counter the corporate establishment, and to have that organization have its own independent, fact-based, solution-oriented media outlet, a propaganda machine for the independent people's movement that has the power to counter all of the nonsense of the corporate media, which is huge. Their level to spray out bullshit. So I want to talk about this independent media outlet that we'll be using in our revolution and afterwards. But I also want to talk about the second part of or not really the second part of the revolution, but going into more of the manifesto of the way we're going to have our society be run. And I want to talk a lot about what Chris Hedges has to say, and a lot of journalists like Chris Hedges have to say about, knowing the systems of healthcare and economics and all of these things that we know are the systems that work, not the Affordable Care Act, but single payer Medicare that we build on and expand and create a system of healthcare that actually takes the public health into concern. And not just healthcare. We're not just talking about healthcare. Our election systems too are, not just getting ranked choice voting and the voting system out of the hands of the Department of Homeland Security, but much more than that. Finding systems of democracy and systems of republic that truly make conditions in the world better for everyone. So we want to talk about, but when we talk about systemic structural change in basically every aspect of our society, which is what we're talking about, going from a corporate controlled world to a socially democratic a socially controlled world of a democratic republic, which is communism, which that's what a democratic republic is. But we want to talk about, of course, there's a lot of great thinkers on who talk about all these things. I want to bring up let's bring up two for the time being who have some really fantastic ideas as to going about this kind of huge social structural change. And we talk about Peter Joseph of the Zeitgeist Movement, and we talk about Jacque Fresco of the Venus Project. If you're not familiar with these two different organizations, please go to YouTube or Google and look up their writings. But they also have both of these movements create and from these two people, they create documentaries and docudrama films available on YouTube that explain their ideas for a sustainable democracy, really. But they go into the most efficient and economic ways of making our society work for everyone. So those two are two of the big ones, and we wanna draw on what they have said and many other people have said all throughout history. Marx, everyone who have said who have been teaching about what Peter Joseph of the Zeitgeist Movement and Jacque Fresco of the Venus Project and so many others have been calling for. So go look up their documentaries. But now let's look at this. In order to have a revolution, we need our people's Declaration of Independence and our Declaration of Peoples of the beginnings of what we want. So we start with the media outlet, the independent media outlet that will act as our deterrent against the corporate fascists. So, excuse me. How can we achieve such a thing in a society where even if an organization like a news organization or a political organization is open to systemic change, we still live in a society where we have these grand institutions that, even though they might claim to be against the establishment, they're still set up in the exact same way that the establishment organizations are set up. So let's look at what we mean. Look at the Green Party, and I'm not trying to knock the Green Party. I think Jill Stein and John Mubaraka and everybody at the Green Party has a lot of great ideas, and they have started leading Jill Stein has led the way for an independent people's revolution. But just look at the way the Green Party is set up. The Green Party is set up in such a way as the basically the exact same way as the Democratic and Republican parties, which is that it's been around for a very long time, and there are well-established people within this organization, and there are people within this organization that rely on their livelihoods for these organizations to stay the way they are. And that's the way it's set up. It's no one's fault in the Green Party. It's just the way that the corporations and the corporate fascists have manipulated us, even the progressive ones enough, so even the ones who want revolution and systemic change, they've made hypocrites of us, because we get bunkered into these grand institutions, and we rely on the health benefits, and rely on the paychecks, and we need it. And when we want major change, it is still a challenging and frightening idea to a lot of people, because of the livelihoods of so many people are tied into these institutions, and if you just upend them, or, it's easy to scare people with the idea of, not having a paycheck tomorrow. And so we talk about political organizations. Take for instance, maybe like RT America, a media organization that is calling for a people's revolution, but RT America is also an organization that has to pay a lot of people and is responsible for a lot of people, and is a part of a society that it is not set up that something like RT America can just be blended into an independent people's organization. Not saying that that's what needs to happen anyway, but the point is we need an all-encompassing, I want to say permeable organization where, we don't need to disperse of the Green Party and of RT America, but we all need to be able to point at one organization that, with one set of values and one list of people's values that we can all point to and say, hey, corporate establishment, look at this. This organization will only come after we get together and decide what those values truly are, which is what we'll get into in a moment. So we have the need to and now we look at Occupy Wall Street. Again, I've criticized Occupy Wall Street many times in many videos for being a corporate controlled organization that had the express consent of silencing its very protesters. The people, all of these people who wanted economic justice, who knew exactly what kind of change they were looking for, and yet the corporate fascists, controlling Occupy Wall Street and the corporate media put out the bullshit that the Occupy Wall Street people didn't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know. These little kids, a bunch of little privileged little snotty college kids, think they know anything about economics. I'm on Fox News with a fucking tie. I know a lot more than these little assholes. And they got away with it because they controlled the media, and we had no independent mass media outlet to counter it with. We had MSNBC, and we had CNN, who are the same as Fox News, except MSNBC was saying, well, we don't know. It seems like the Republicans in Fox News are making a lot of good points, and so we'll just concede to them. And this is the way it goes. Calling MSNBC just as bad as Fox News around Occupy Wall Street because, MSNBC is worse because of how insidious they were. They were liars. They wanted to shut down Occupy Wall Street. They wanted to discredit the movement. It's because they were as corporate as Fox News. And so the point of having an independent media outlet when we have our own independent people's movement, why we need both of these things, is because of the fake progressive MSNBC and CNN who will claim to be for the things we stand for, but will discredit us every step of the way. They're liars. They're worse than Fox News. They're snakes. They're snake people. But so is Fox News. But yes, we if we're not careful, our people's movement will go the way of Occupy Wall Street, which is to say, it'll go to the fire and the flames. It will be dispersed and discredited if we cannot counter the bullshit from the establishment, the Democrat and the Republican sides of the establishment. So we need, but to say where we can learn from Occupy Wall Street, where they got it right. Occupy Wall Street became a symbol. The the very name of it is you didn't have to say much to understand exactly what these people wanted, even without the corporate media telling people that these college kids and these hippie over the hill hippies didn't know what they were talking about, and that they should only listen to the white people in the ties with the pretty hair. Even with all of that corporate media uh, deflection and rejection of the genuine, and this is the majority of people in Occupy Wall Street who were genuine about systemic change, you know, uh, even without the corporate media support, uh, Occupy Wall Street did become a very concrete symbol to people of the change wanted. So now we learn from them by understanding that kind of movement, that kind of popular movement that we saw, it's replicable. I don't know, but definitely we can learn from Occupy Wall Street when we, you know, when we create our own people's movement. But you know, that's a good takeaway. We need a good name, no, but Occupy Wall Street definitely left its mark. Let's say. But where they fell short is, of course, being corporate backed, but of course having no all-encompassing media outlet and having no concrete list of demands, because it was corporate controlled and they stopped any of that kind of thing, a people summit, from happening. So because we're not going to be corporate funded, we need to start with coming together and forming our grievances and forming what we want and forming what we know about the way our society should be functioning. And we know what is sustainable. We know from the systems of government that have been set up all over the world, in Europe and all over, and not to say that European countries are some paradise, but we're learning through the statistical data that the countries with the best educated people, and the countries with the best places for business, and the places with the best democracies, and the places with the best healthcare systems, and the places with the most efficient workforces, and the places with the happiest people, and the places with the most technological advances, and the places with the best police forces and the best prison systems and the most efficient drug laws that help people treat it as a health issue and not as a crime. All of these things we know from these socialist programs being enacted all over the world, that these social programs are the most successful, and as they continue to be improved upon, they continue to become more and more successful within raising standards of living and making a better world for people. So we look at the Venus Project and we look at the Zeitgeist Movement, and what we're really looking at is collectivization of resources, which is Marxism. Again, I am a Hegelian Marxist, a dialectical materialist. I'm a communist. This is a podcast hosted by a communist, but focuses on all views. We as an independent people's movement, one of our first points of our manifesto is to recognize that our society especially the United States of America, does not have a functioning democracy. We don't have a functioning democratic republic. We have an oligarchy. And so, one of the first issues to bring up on our people's manifesto is that we will no longer live in an oligarchy, and we will move our change our laws and change the way our society is run, so our society is the choices made by our society are dictated by a democratic republic, the consensus of the people and the consensus of the experts, which is a republic. But when we talk about experts, we're talking about people who are actually qualified to be the Secretary of Education, someone who has studied everything about public education and everything about private education and knows the facts that public education is about 1,000 million times better at educating people than privatized education. That's a fact. It's not an opinion. So when we talk about a republic and when we talk about rule by the experts or the educated, as well as a democracy, and putting that all together is communism. But when we talk about a democratic republic, we're talking about concrete laws that make sure all of the people are having their voices heard, and that it's not just bought by the corporations. But we're talking now about collectivization of the resources, which is Marxism, and it's also what the Zeitgeist Movement and the Venus Project also talk about. We're talking about obviously the management of resources, so they work as economically and as efficiently as possible for everyone. They must be working for the benefit of all people. So getting homeless people off the street, and George Carlin has a great quote, or I'm going to paraphrase George Carlin when he talks about George Carlin talks about people will call him some sort of liberal utopian nut or whatever, but all he thinks is that we should live in a society where we're not worrying about cinnamon flavored dental floss while there are people sleeping on the streets. Okay, so when we're also talking about collectivization, we're also talking about the priorities of our values, what we put these resources, what we use these resources for. And we're not talking about hoarding resources. We're not talking about enslaving people. We're talking about using all of our resources for the betterment of public health. And what is public health but also happiness? Making sure that people who want to, people who love jet skiing can go jet skiing. They won't own their jet ski, but they'll be a community of jet skiing, so this person can enjoy the hobby whenever this person wants, and get an education in aquatic sports, and be a part of a community that's is also interested in the same things. It's about building community, is what we're talking about when we talk about communism. So we want, and of course we want to build jet skis and means of transportation that are not only as efficient as possible and safe as possible, but also sustainability. We people can have cars. If you're interested in like motor vehicles, it is no trouble at all to build vehicles that look the exact same as a fossil fueled motor vehicle, but is run on sustainable energy, is made from sustainable, clean products. We're not talking about shutting down all motor vehicle technology and education and learning and all mechanic we're not talking about stifling the creative flame of people who are interested in cars or whatever it is. We're interested in making a society where that person can spend his or her time getting an education on cars and being around cars and working with cars in a community that promotes his beliefs and it empowers and respects the things he or she thinks or believes and educates the person as well on the things that are not factually correct that they believe, but and also being part of a community that is also, interested in motor vehicles, and that's really the localization of communities. If we woke up tomorrow and we were living in a sustainable, efficient, democratically social environments where there are localized communities in every part of the world where you could go anywhere in the world and live in a small community, live by yourself, live in a big community, live with others, live in a commune, live out in the woods, whatever. And these things are doable, these things are very achievable if we can just take it, if we can just form as a people's movement and take it. We know how to achieve these things. But if we woke up tomorrow and we lived in that world, I tell you, I'd be off to somewhere in the fucking French Polynesians in a heartbeat. I'd be off to the South Pacific to go live on an island with a very small community of people. Maybe no one. I don't know, maybe a lot of people. I don't know, but I would be sticking around. I love the snow in the Northeast here. It's beautiful, but oof, this world is not my home, as Tom Waits said. This is not the world where we should even want to be living in. We could have a better society tomorrow in an instant because the corporate fascists fear us so much, but we're just gonna let our lives, the clock of our lives, run out as we continue to have Betsy DeVos as the head of the Department of Education. It's ridiculous. There needs to be a concrete, and don't even call it third party. As it is right now, we are the 50%. People are running from the Democratic and Republican parties in droves. I'm not sure how many millions of people have left the Democratic Party since the election, since Trump won. I think I saw it was millions and millions. I'll need to get that right number. But yeah, we're not a party. We're the majority. We are the majority party, the Independent People's Movement, who know about Peter Joseph and know about Jacque Fresco and know about the countries of Europe and Canada and Cuba. Cuba has a fantastic system of government. But the reason why all these social programs in the world have stalled in Europe is because of austerity. You see them in the streets screaming about it. It is the corporate elitist, hegemonic stranglehold on our culture that is stopping us from installing the system of government that we knows will create change that will bring sustainability and raise the standards of living for people. But again, it's a stranglehold. It is an abusive relationship we have with the corporate media. It's like an alcoholic and an alcoholic spouse, smacking the spouse around is really what's going on here. but we know how, what we want. We know the systems of government that will give us these things, and it's doable. And these systems are not based on debt; they're based on resource management and the needs of everyone. Uh, you know, when we talk about the Zeitgeist Movement, we talk about the craziness of something like New York City, where there's so much poverty, where there's so much crime, where there's so much people in need, and struggling people and homeless. How many homeless people have died in this storm alone, just in New York City? We talk about the absurdity of of a of a a place to live, of these millions of people living on top of each other. Uh, there's nothing more unsustainable than this, and what Peter Joseph and Jacque Fresco talking about is rebuilding our radically rebuilding our societies, that we create these localized communities that can provide for themselves and educate themselves, but also be majorly connected to all the other communities. And we're not talking about states, and we're not talking about nations, and we're not talking about townships or whatever. We're talking about, in the purest form, communities that work for all people. And when we say work for people, some people want to live in big New York City environments, and those can be constructed. If someone wants to live with millions and millions of people, yes, you'll do that. A lot of people are attracted to that, and that's, we're not talking about making work camps for people. We're talking about letting people live where they want to live. If you want to live in a tropical area where there's millions of people, hey, let's make a lot of those different kinds of societies. If you want to live on the top of a snowy mountain, hey, let's make you able to do that and give you the needs to do that, and then to also protect yourself. We're not talking about enslavement. We're talking about freedom. We're talking about choice, is what we're talking about. I tell you, I would be off to some little island in the Pacific with a small community. That'd be fine. I've been to Central America and been to some small little beachside towns. I would love to do that. A small little community. Someone makes the bread. Someone la di da. Someone runs the convenience store, or however these will be set up. I'd be all about that. I'd be out of here in a second, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to stay where they are. I'm sure a lot of people in New York City would be saying, I like the idea of sustainable, localized communities, but yeah, I'd also like to stay in this hustle bustle, and make my way in life here. And so we continue to talk about our people's manifesto. We talk about basic income, and we talk about the end of poverty. We see in many countries throughout Europe, they're pushing for a basic income. Many even states in the United States are pushing for a basic income. And again, the data shows us that a basic income would pretty much solve the problem of poverty and homelessness, and would pretty much do great things to people, struggling people. It is a fact that when people are given more ability and power, they tend to help themselves. And when they're given less, they tend to fall into addiction, and fall into hopelessness, and fall into sicknesses because they can't afford any medicine. It is these public social programs that are happening all throughout the world that are leading to the decrease in poverty, and to the decrease in addiction, and to the decrease of bankruptcy and overspending. When someone has security, their rapid need of having changes. When things are not provided for someone, but you know, uh, expected out of their lives. Uh, you know, when I go outside and walk on a sidewalk and drive on a road that is created through the similar programs of basic income, I'm not thinking, I got to get me some more roads. No, I'm thinking like, oh wow, this society is basically doing its job as and helping me, move from one place to another. This is meeting my needs. And that's what we're talking about. You want to end addiction? Meet people's needs. If you want to end sickness and depression, yeah, meet people's needs. And when we talk about a sustainable society, we're talking about a mentally healthy society. We're talking about mental health as a major component and of a functioning society, and happiness and standards of happiness, like Denmark being one of the happiest countries in the world because the people are economically assured and insured there with free education, free healthcare, the economic rights and the rights of the workers at companies is unbelievably better than the United States. Again, they're not great in these places, but they are better than the United States, but they are also showing us what the potential of these social programs, what they're pointing to. It's like seeing seeing what the healthcare programs of Europe are the positive things they're doing for the individual and for the majority of people. It's like looking at the potential of electricity, and then powering the world with it. We're looking at the next the next age with these solution-based social programs. We're looking at the future. We're staring right at the light bulb. We're looking at, it's like the agricultural revolution, which is about to happen, which is the social revolution of this world, and the resource and sustainable revolution of this world. It's going to be like the agricultural revolution when civilizations were built. We're very close. We have the ability to change, and we know how to do it. The science and the data is showing us is exactly what we need to do to achieve a sustainable society that helps all people and meets all needs. It's a needs revolution. It's a means of production revolution, which is really what can be upon us if we take action. Again, this is no myth of progress. This is, nothing's going to manifest itself. Jesus is not going to come down from a cloud and say, fix your government. This is not the way this world works. We need to do it. We need to be the change, and we need to fight for it. Liking a Zeitgeist movie on YouTube and retweeting the Venus Project and retweeting a Truth Dig article. Yeah, it's all good stuff. It's all good information, and it's good to get out to other people. But if we're not out in the streets, and if we're not making ourselves known to this corporate media and to the world, which is controlled by the corporate media, then progress is going to be hard to come by. And that's the exact reason we need a independent media outlet. And I'm talking about an all-encompassing outlet like Occupy Wall Street, that people like Truth Dig and people like Lee Camp and people I like, Chris Hedges and the Green Party and Jill Stein and Dr. Cornel West, they can all point to this one organization and say, this is where we are. This is where the Chris Hedges and the Jimmy Dores and the Dr. Cornel Wests and Jill Steins, this is where we all come together. This is what we believe. The Green Party platform has a lot of great ideas about what we would want in this manifesto. The problem is the Green Party, and it's not really any individuals at the Green Party. It's just that this big old political party set up in the structure of the parties of the past is not meant to be inclusive, and it's not meant to be easily changed or permeable or to be able to move around in. These are grand old institutions, much like the Democratic and Republican Party, but we need our organization that can be permeable and that doesn't rely on that can support itself, obviously, and support the people who work for it, but can also change and grow and mainly change. We need to make sure our non-corporate organization has the power to change when the evidence changes. We learn new things, all of this. So, let's do this. How do we continue with our manifesto? What else should be in this Independent People's Manifesto? Well, let's look at the Green Party and what Jill Stein was calling for. Jill Stein was basically calling for about 3 New Deals. Really was what she was calling for. She was calling for a Green New Deal, which is to advance environmental technologies, and then she was calling for another New Deal to call for a revolution of just technologies, and then a third New Deal to call for just a work program, a FDR New Deal work program, to get that back after Bill Clinton and the establishment fascists took it away from us. Our ability to be free to have a job, to provide for ourselves. And again, yeah, sure, expensive programs, but again, these programs pay for themselves, and we know this. This is a fact that these programs pay for themselves. So, yeah, this is another huge part of our future of our independent movement is these jobs programs and these programs to mobilize labor. We're not talking about throwing money at something. We're talking about mobilizing resources and labor in a way that creates things that will create a sustainable economy and a sustainable world. We know how to do it. The problem, these corporate media fascists will say, like, well, how do you do it? Like, no, it's never been that. We've always known. We've known about how these social programs work for 200 years. We know how to do it easily. We have the legislators and we have the experts to write these programs easily, so to make these social programs sustainable. But of course, the how do you do it lie is perpetuated by the Democratic establishment because they've never been interested in knowing how to do it, because they've never been doing it. Ever since the Democratic Party gave up the New Deal roots in favor of corporatism, this has been their line. Like, oh, well, how do you do it? You got Republicans, how do you do it? And this is the abusive aspect, saying that we don't know how to do it when we know how to do it, and these people telling us that we don't. And actually tricking millions and millions of people into thinking that they have no ability and they have no power and they, can't achieve any of these things. So, we think about our manifesto. We think about the things we know we should have, but are not yet granted to us. We talk about education, and education is a huge part of say the Zeitgeist Movement or the Venus Project, because the goal of the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist Movement is, of course, the automation of a lot of work. As in, our goal is to continue to automate the workforce so we don't spend our lives doing meaningless tasks that can be performed by machines and computers. And again, we could do this tomorrow. We could fully automate our workforce tomorrow. And it is being done by the corporate fascists. This is why we need to act quickly, so the people are in control of the automation revolution and not the corporate fascists, because they're working for it. And if we still live in a corporate fascist state, when when they have the ability to run their own corporate fascist state, they don't need us. They'll kill us all of us in a second, and they can. But but education and automation. But the point of automating everything in our people's society is so that we spend the entire time of our lives being educated and learning and pursuing the subjects that we choose as individuals. Again, to the motor vehicle enthusiast, if you love motor vehicles and you're scared of motor vehicles are what you want to do with your life, but you live in a capitalist society, so you have to work at the Baskin Robbins and you need to spend all your time making useless green toilet paper so you can spend your time fixing up cars that you can afford. How about if your entire life was just about educating yourself on motor vehicles and spending all of your time studying motor vehicles, racing, discussing motor vehicles with people, picking apart cars and remaking engines and things like that, whatever motor vehicle people like to do. What if that was your life? And then if you got bored with cars, you can go on to learning about planes or learning about fish or learning about video games or shoes or whatever. And that was your life. You had the choice of always going around and pursuing different subjects that you were interested in. How about that, Mr. or Mrs. Capitalist? How about that? How about you say that, hey, my job at the Baskin Robbins is eventually going to be taken over by automation. My useless job at the Baskin Robbins is eventually going to be taken over by a robot. Why don't I control my economy and my life before that day happens? So we know what we want, and we know how to achieve it. The point is that we're not given any type of voice, and we're constantly marginalized, and we're constantly divided, and we're constantly put in boxes and told to pit each other against each other. Good God, some of this crap coming out of some people I even respect on Twitter who are they're just shitting on Trump voters. Give me a break. Trump voters. Poor people who have been fucked over by the corporate fascist system, who had the only choice of the Molotov cocktail of the Donald Trump vote to throw at the system. They've never had any type of voice. They've never been heard. They've been called racists and crazy people by the corporate media for their entire lives. And you want to blame these people for trying to destroy that system. With most of them know what Donald Trump is. Most of them know Donald Trump is a monster, fucking crazy person. But most of them know that once they've thrown this Molotov cocktail of ridiculous Donald Trump instead of smiley-faced, wool over your eyes Hillary Clinton, the system's never going to be the same again. And the system, hopefully, if we're smart, we can all come together and form an organization that will never give us a smiley-faced Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or George Bush ever again. If we're smart, if we're wise. Again, we are the 50%. We are, and growing, us independent voters. People are fleeing the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They are fleeing mass exodus in droves away from these corporate fascist time bombs that are about to literally destroy themselves. And the corporate establishment is just on a train from hell, speeding out of control, about to head off the tracks. Or it's ridiculous what these people are fucking doing. but there is we have the information here from the Venus Project, and I am go check these out because they're very interesting organizations. I'll just read part of what the Venus Project says here. The Venus Project proposes an alternative vision of what the future can be if we apply what we already know in order to achieve a sustainable New World civilization. It calls for a straightforward redesign of our culture in which the age-old inadequacies of war, poverty, hunger, debt, and unnecessary human suffering are viewed not only as avoidable but as totally unacceptable. Anything less will result in a continuation of the same catalog of problems inherent in today's world. This the Venus Project and the Zeitgeist Movement were while they were gaining a lot of popularity during Occupy Wall Street, they were smeared by the likes of Alex Jones, Alex Jones, the obvious establishment FBI plant meant to destroy information about social values and 9/11 truth and Islam. This ploy in the people's movement, who claims to be for liberty and the people and freedom, but has now come out as a complete establishment Trump fraud. So we disapprove of Alex Jones, but we raise up the Chris Hedges and the Peter Josephs and the Jacque Frescos. You'll once you watch the Zeitgeist materials, you might want to watch the interview of Alex Jones' interview, if you want to call it an interview or a debate about sustainable social values, where Alex Jones just proves he's some FBI informant who knows nothing, who is starts screaming at Peter Joseph, calling Peter Joseph a totalitarian fascist, and now a few years later, Alex Jones is the fucking lapdog of Donald Trump and the Trump fiasco. So you should definitely check that material out. It's definitely worth your time. It's a lot of very interesting and philosophical discussions, but we have to continue with the People's Manifesto and the our demands and our grievances. There's so much more I could go into about what we would have to put into this, but of course we want to make sure that we have a democratic republic that can allow the facts and allow the majority of the people's opinion, which would all lead us to these societies. Because if you look at the polling, this is what people believe and this is what the experts are saying. The only thing stopping it is the corporate fascist stranglehold, and we know this. So it's time to stand up, and it's time to move away from it, or else we really won't have that much luck unless we organize and move past these grand illusion divides that have been put between us by the media and the government. They're the only good thing that they're good at is dividing people and breaking people up and making people feel a bunch of righteous indignation about events that don't even matter, about things that aren't even real. All they do is put up some narrative fake reality of the way they want people to see the world, which is as dangerous and frightening and broken up. But we need to make our grievances clear, and we need to do it as soon as possible, because they have their plans as well, and they're moving forward with theirs their plans, and that could be bad for us. But yeah, so look up the Zeitgeist Movement, look up Venus Project, look up Chris Hedges and Jill Stein and all of these people, and learn what they have to say. Thank you for listening. My name is Sandy Frank, and I will see you in the next one.